Welcome to Scorched Earth and a general reading for the sign of Cancer, Sun, Moon or Ascendant for the month of April 2025. I hope you are well and apologies for taking so long to get this reading to you. I would like to be able to tell you exactly why I haven't been able to do it, but I don't know. I don't know. I have been, I guess, sick as a fucking dog for quite a long time, and matter of weeks, and so I've had physical problems with joints and migraines and things like that as well, but I feel like I kind of slipped into the void a little bit, so apologies if you have been waiting for this reading, but also, you know, thank you for your patience. I appreciate it. It's funny how I thought Venus retrograde, the day it stationed, I started to feel a little bit better, but I'm trying to think about how to describe what was that was like for the 2 days after that. I was like, okay, right, things are starting to feel better. This is good. I'm going to make sense of everything. And it was a bit like being on a cliff edge and losing your grip a little bit and kind of scrabbling to safety and be like, whew, okay, well that was a bit scary, it's all good, and then all of a sudden the entire fucking hillside just gives way. Like that's the best approximation, I think, of where I have been I can give you. So apologies, but also gratitude. Thank you. Let's get straight on with this. So like I've done with all of the other signs, I'm going to be pulling you an oracle card. So we'll go 5, 4, do a proper one, 3, 2 and 1. We'll pull the card out, and this is your card. We will look at it at the end. It's from the Liminal Forest Oracle deck, and we'll use the Night Sun Tarot for the message for you this month. So can I have 3 cards for Cancer, please? Just Cancer, no. Oh, so we have 2 cards. We have the Lovers and we have the 2 of Swords together. What about current energy, please, for Cancer? We have the Death card. Let me just get my little puppy, stick it over the top of the Death card, because otherwise this video will be flagged by the AI bots that trawl YouTube, and it'll be flagged up for nudity. And what's coming towards Cancer, please? Whoa. Okay, so interesting. We have the 7 of Wands, which is Mars in Leo. And so, you know, one of the notable things that's happened very recently is that Mars has moved from your sign of Cancer into the sign of Leo. I'm just going to get rid of me because for some reason my fucking camera keeps halting as well. So we have that. You know, Cancer, I love you, but Jesus, Mars in your sign has been a lot. It's been difficult. And we also have the 3 of Swords. Now, I am not concerned about this in so much it does not feel like the end of the month is going to skewer you in some sort of way. I prefer to see the 3 of Swords, certainly in this instance here, as indicating some sort of greater truth. Now, there is a greater truth that is kind of permeating your being, helping you understand your emotional response to it. Now, let's just have a look and see what's at the bottom of the deck. We've got the Magician. That is absolutely fantastic. It's been somewhat of a totem for you for a while, Cancer. We're talking about maybe as a year or 2 now. Speaking about the creation of your own reality, we're talking about manifestation when the Magician comes up, and many other things besides, right? But there's something very potent about what it is that you are able to create. And I think that what we've got going on here is, as I have seen for many of the signs, actually an enormous transitional phase that is shifting consciousness from one level to another. And I have to say, whenever I have experienced this, and I don't presume to speak for all people at all times when it's happened, that has been a painful transition. There has always been pain associated with that, but it does feel to me like it's taking you up to the next level of what it is that you can manifest. I mean, you know, we've got the Death energy right here in your current energy, We've got movement happening down here, but let's get some clarifiers out first, and then we'll speak to whatever's going on here. So tell me about the Lovers card and the Two of Swords. Got the Empress reversed. This is fascinating. Oh, good lord, an absolute fucking clusterfuck. So let's go. Star, Ace of Swords, Ace of Wands, and the Judgment card. I think this is so important. I wonder if this is one of the reasons why yours was right at the end, Cancer. I'll explain what I mean in a minute. Tell me about the Death card, please. The Chariot card of Cancer and the World. Tell me about the Seven of Wands and the Three of Swords for Cancer, please. Right. The Queen of Pentacles and the High Priestess. Let's get one more. Oh, Knight of Cups. Right, Pisces energy doubling up there. We have also, again, the Three of Swords appearing at the bottom of the deck. Now, I want to kind of go over this in a broad pass first before we get into the detail of it, because what I'm seeing coming up underneath is absolutely confirming what I was feeling first off in terms of the overarching energy that was sitting at the top here, which is to say that your position as magician is not actually as compromised as perhaps you may have believed recently that it is. I say that because the magician is still here, right? I literally called one of your readings. Was it from last year or the year before? I really can't remember. This is Cancer, you're a fucking magician, right? And there's been a lot about recognizing that ability within you that has been playing out over the last few years. But it could, so the suggestion that I'm getting from the cards here is that you feel like you have been kind of stymied in something, like something that you've been trying to work towards, something that you've been trying to manifest, something that you've been trying to create, to the extent that it could be that you have been questioning whether or not you still possess this ability to magician your way through. The broad pass over these cards is disagreeing with you. If that is indeed how you've been feeling, it is disagreeing with you. What it's saying is it's been temporarily halted so that you can focus on your own evolutionary upswing, so that the power of what it is that you are able to manifest is amplified by some significant margin. It could be, when we talk about the magician, we talk about him being bound literally only by the limits of his own imagination, and so there's something quite expansive about what is happening to you here, which is, I feel, enabling you to see more than you have been able to see up until this point, which then by extension means that you are able to imagine more. So with that being the broad pass over the top of it, let's look at the detail. We have another card of manifestation here. It is the Lovers card, and we have it here with the Two of Swords. Now, this is an interesting combination, not least because the Two of Swords is the preceding card to the Three, so we need to pin that as a thing here. But also the fact that, for me, the Two of Swords talks about us not knowing what we don't know, like not being able to see what we can't see, right? It's the it's the experiences, it's the awareness that are not available to us because we don't know that they're there. Now, that seems to me to be a very powerful starting point for a reading that is talking quite literally about sending you up to the next level of something, right? When we're exposed to new ways of being, new awarenesses, new levels of everything, right? We're bringing in information that we didn't have before. And this is the thing that's changing the outlook. This is the thing that's changing the way that we, quite literally decode reality. And so to have a card that represents manifestation to be followed immediately by one that suggests that there is something here that you have not seen because you could not perceive it, and therefore in order to be able to manifest in whichever way is appropriate, we're going to have to get through that boundary. We're going to have to get through that limitation in thought, in limitation in perspective, limitation in dreams, hopes, goals, all sorts of things before we can get there. Now, the way that the Lover's card and the Magician card vary for me, because although they both do talk about manifestation, it feels to me like it's a different way of being. Like the Magician is a very active, masculine energy. It's active manifestation. It's, I intend this, and I'm putting all of my energy into that. The difference between that and the Lover's card is that because there's a collective feel to the Lover's card for me, it's more about you being positioned where you need to be in order that you come into a state of alignment with the universe. Now, we know that when we align, shit just flows, shit just happens, right? But there's been some sort of block on this. Now, it could be that the things that you're actively manifesting may have just sort of slowed down a little bit rather than dried up altogether. But the implication seems to be that it's less about the conscious mind and more about the upgrading of the subconscious mind that is going on in the background, because that's where this passive manifestation sits, right? I often say that the way that we communicate with the universe is directly through our subconscious. It's not through our conscious mind. So if the Magician is going to be more powerful, if he is upgrading and what he can create is going to be expanding, he needs the resources at his disposal, not only the aces, Ace of Swords, Ace of Wands, Ace of Pentacles, and Ace of Cups that we've got here. You know, what he actually intends behind it, right, to consciously project into the future also needs to be available to him. It's like it's getting an upgrade. And then we have the Empress card in reverse. Now, it's this card here, actually, that makes me feel like you have felt like everything is drying up. Like it's just not working the way that it was working. It's not working the way that it's supposed to work. Like almost a sense of frustration about you not doing it properly in one way or another. But that's not what this is saying. It does feel to me like it is a temporary halt, because the Star card being here, and the Star card's put in an appearance a number of times over the course of this month's reading for all of the signs. It feels to me a little bit like it's saying, Cancer, you have not been aiming high enough. Now, whether this is because Mars has been going backwards in your sign, right, a retrograde in your sign is always going to kind of make you halt. It's supposed to make you think and rethink and reevaluate and all these sorts of things here. Ace of Swords and Ace of Wands is new ways of thinking coupled with new ways of acting. And if what you've been doing is trying to follow the same script that has worked for you up until this point, you're going to be hitting a bit of a brick wall, because the Star card's saying it needs to be so much bigger. It needs to be so much higher. You need to be tipping your eyes from your feet up to the horizon and saying, actually, that's where I'm going. Now, the Empress represents the sign of Taurus. It represents the sign of Libra. And both of these, being Venusian-ruled signs, in some way or another have quite a lot to do with comfort. We do not move out of our comfort zone if everything that we're doing is working. Right? If it's not broke, don't fix it. We tend to fall into cycles of things where everything's, fine. There aren't too many agitations. What is the impetus to move beyond it? There isn't one. There won't be one. Humans are incredibly pain-avoidant creatures, and if we set ourselves on something that works, we're not likely to throw ourselves into the void. So by necessity, what we've got is a situation where that needs to be kind of kneecapped, and you need to be made to feel uncomfortable so that you will push through and out of where you have been comfortable and into something new. And this is what all of these cards here are saying to me. Well, what's quite interesting is that we also have the Judgment card there. Now, this is a card that is associated with Aries and Scorpio, although I feel like it's quite Scorpio in nature. And it talks about not only our judgment, it can also talk about, retrograde energy, because we're resurrecting something that we thought was dead and buried, so that we can give it a final pass and close it out properly. But for me, it talks about making life-changing decisions. And if the problem that the universe seems to have identified for you is that you're thinking too small, if everything's just been working, if everything's just more or less following a trajectory that you intended it to, where is the impetus for growth? There is none. We have to be made uncomfortable so that we choose voluntarily to leave that comfort zone. I can't tell you how clear the message is here, Cancer. It's 100% clear to me, almost to the extent I don't really feel like I need to say anything more about that. Because when we come into your current energy, we've got the Death card, the Chariot card, and the World. Just as an aside, I think perhaps you are the sign who's had the most major arcana cards out of any I've read for this month. I can't swear to it. But there seems to be an inordinate amount of major arcana energy on the table. Right? The Lover's card, the Judgment card, the Star card, the Empress card, Death, Chariot, the World, the High Priestess, the Magician back here. I mean, these are a lot of big energies that are working on you here at the moment. And big energies like this from the universe do not work on you when they want you to just keep puddling on the way that you are doing, right? They are always forcing some kind of change. I think it's quite useful sometimes to think about the difference between the major and minor arcana cards as the major arcana cards indicating universal forces that are working on us at any given point, and then the response that is required by the major arcana coming down through the minor arcana. So here, the response that is required from all of this big energy here is recognize where the block is, recognize where there's a limitation here, and then seek to move through it, right? Change, evolve, innovate, both in thought and in action. But most importantly, to choose to do that. Now, the big energy working at you here is transformation. And this has been a theme that's been coming through for quite a few of the signs this month, right? It's huge transformation. It's also Scorpio energy, so, your sister water sign there. Well, we got a change of state. And if everything that I'm feeling is the kind of the universe putting their hands on your butt and just kind of pushing you up the hillside, it's probably a good way of representing how this energy feels right here. It's not entirely voluntary, because like I said, you wouldn't do it if there was no need. But the discomfort is enough for you to accept the shove that's happening and trying in your own way to clamber up the hillside. We've got the Chariot down here, which is a card of the self predominantly. Yes, it talks about victory. Yes, it talks about success, and it talks about setting goals and setting your sights on things. But all of that would be for nothing if the Chariot were not in a state of balance and alignment. We're talking about integrating polarities within your own psyche, right? So bringing it all to bear and then being able to control it in a meaningful way. The fact that you've got these two cards showing up here, again, all three cards are talking about taking something up to the next level. But the Chariot card is saying you had to understand yourself at a deeper level. I'm fucking stunned that we find ourselves in 2025 and there are more layers. There is more depth that we can plumb. There are deeper things that we can bring up, because we've been on this train for like 5 years now, more possibly, Cancer. And and we're not running out of material yet, but there's a certain point, there's a certain amount of information that we need to process and integrate before we finally arrive at what is our limitation, and then transcend it, then expand beyond it. I mean, the World card is speaking to exactly the same thing here. We've got the end of the current cycle that you are in, because it's a Saturn card, and it's representing that limitations. Now, if we're wanting you to take your manifestations up to the next level, if we're wanting to take your alignment up to the next level, it is incredibly fucking important that we tie up any loose ends in the previous cycle, but also recognize where it is, where the that we recognize where the limits of our abilities are, right, and push through them. We come out of the comfort zone and we're pushing into the new. And the rest of April, then, to that extent, actually feels to me like it is best employed in quite simply just looking after yourself, because that is a lot of very intense energy. I can feel a lot of frustration around that energy there. A lot of intense energy here. Here we've got Mars in Leo, 7 of Wands, and Saturn in Libra, 3 of Swords. Now, often protective or defensive or kind of guarded energy, right? But there's a confidence in it because we're fighting for something, right? We're not just in pure defensive mode. We're fighting for something that we believe in, and there is confidence with that. But I do feel like it's the kind of recovery of confidence that has been knocked over the last few months. I mean, maybe for you it might even be as long as 6 months. I'm kind of looking back at my own shit and thinking it's probably bang on 6 months that I've been feeling a little bit like whatever. And then we have the 3 of Swords. Now, like, to try and understand where I'm coming from with the 3 of Swords, because I do realise that this is a different take than a lot of people have on this card. My initial issues with the 3 of Swords came from the fact that I couldn't understand why something that had such a deep emotional component to it, and it's the one card generally in the tarot that we don't need to explain to normies, right? It does what it says on the tin. Why would this not be a Cups card? Why has this been given over to the Sword suit when the Sword suit is about logic and rationality and reason and the workings of the mind and how we see reality and even how we communicate, right? And eventually I realised that the answer was just sort of staring me in the face, in so much as the swords do represent information. They represent cold, hard logic. They represent the position that facts are actually more important than feelings here, right? And that when these two positions intersect, not only does it cause us extraordinary pain, but we also begin to see how invested we were in a world before those swords appeared, right, and pierced us straight through the heart. Now, to illustrate what I mean, we see the Three of Swords coming up quite often with relationship breakdowns, right? In the moment, that's obvious. But relationships that break down because, say, a partner cheated 5 years ago, we would see the Three of Swords come up for that as well, because the cheating or the bad behaviour, whatever it was, is represented by the sword. That is the fact of the matter. Piercing our heart. It's taking our emotional connection to the reality that we have and skewering it and showing us that what we thought was the case was not. Now, it would not matter if the partner concerned had been on their best behaviour for 5 years, after this event. The fact that the event occurred at all, like the Three of Swords shows us where emotional pain is not temporally specific. Like, the thing that can hurt you could have happened 20 years ago, but if you just find out about it, it shatters your emotional paradigm, right? And that takes a little bit of working through. Now, I think Cancer's been going through an intense spiritual awakening, and I'm inclined to say, with the Three of Swords showing up twice, what we have here is, perhaps a bit of a reality shattering paradigm that's been going through, that the Cancer's been going through, where certain cold, hard, steel realities have permeated what was otherwise perhaps a comfort zone, or perhaps, you know, something where you felt a little bit more secure, a little bit more in control than you do now that something has been exposed. Now, I don't think it is that people have been cheating on you, Cancer, or anything like that. I mean, I can't never say never, right? It's possible that it might have happened for some of you. But I feel like this Three of Swords is more like that kind of feeling that we have at the other side of some sort of big spiritual awakening, right? Where things aren't what we thought they were. I went off on a big rant about this the other day, actually, with a different sign. Or I said, you know, the point at which somebody starts telling me that they had their spiritual awakening in, you know, this year, and it was great, and they had, you know, just light flowing out of their heart, and they realised they were one with everyone, and, you know, it was all love, light, and fucking unicorns. I stopped paying attention to what they have to say, because to me that sounds like it's probably pretty fucking bollocks, to be honest. The reality is, at least in my experience, as limited as that may be, is that spiritual awakenings invariably are followed by feelings of isolation, feelings of confusion, feelings that are trying to reconcile how we feel about the world, the things that we see laid bare in the world, with the paradigm that we're trying to preserve. Your friendship groups, your family situations, your spousal connections, you know, even down to things like, you know, core values. Like, you stand for something entirely fucking different to everybody else, and it's lonely. And sometimes we can find ourselves wishing that we could unsee what we had just seen, and that liberty is very rarely given to us. Thinking about that dude in the Matrix who opts to take the pill and go back into the Matrix because he's seen the truth and he dislikes it so fucking much that he wants to go back into the Matrix construct. And the reason why that's so fucking jarring for all of us is because most of us can see that that's not what helps growth, right? It's literally swerving, avoiding growth. It's like, well, just go back to sleep, do whatever you do. I think you've seen something, Cancer. I think you're experiencing something. I think to a great degree, you're probably finding it difficult to put words to what you are feeling right now. It just feels like everything is different. And there is a pain with that, because now everything is unfamiliar. And it could well be that you don't have people that you can talk to about this. You know, that sort of thing would be very, very common post-spiritual awakening. And so, we have the Queen of Pentacles, the High Priestess, and the Knight of Cups here. And I do believe that the rest of the month is about being kind to yourself. We've got the Queen of Pentacles, who is the queen that comes up whenever we need to be talking about self-care. She understands the value of something, well, the value of most things actually, but specifically she understands the value of herself. We see this card come up when there is a need quite often to invest in yourself, to be quiet, to be with yourself, you know, away from things that might be vexatious to your soul. You know, take the time to do the things that make you feel A, in your body and grounded and all that kind of thing, but B, that go some way to making you feel safe in this new place that you find yourself. You know, we have the High Priestess here, who is also, you know, well, she's given to be a very silent character, and I think that she's so sensitive, much is vexatious to her, right, in terms of external noise and whatnot. You're not going to find her in the middle of a city. She's going to be up a mountain somewhere, right, where it's nice and peaceful. But I think you have had a massive boost to your intuition, right? It's been leveled up really quite dramatically. And for some of you, you may find that there are all sorts of spiritual abilities that just seem to have come in from nowhere, and that's pretty discombobulating. Like, what do we do with this? Who do I talk to about this? Am I supposed to act on this, or am I supposed to just know this? And we have the Knight of Cups. The combination of all these cards here together, en masse, Cancer, say to me that you are being taken to the next level of consciousness so that you may be of a new kind of service to people, certainly a more informed kind of service. But it is incredibly fucking important that you give yourself time for all of this to become, or to allow yourself to become familiar with this landscape and what it feels like, because you're much more sensitive now than you were even just a couple of months ago. You're much more intuitive than you were just a couple of months ago. And things that used to feel enjoyable probably aren't going to feel enjoyable in the same way, but I feel like there are new things that are going to be cropping up very soon that will be attracting your attention that you were not aware of before. Remember, all of this has been about increasing your power, increasing your manifestation abilities. And I do find myself wondering, Mars in Leo again, I do find myself wondering if this double priestess energy, or double Pisces energy, beg your pardon, that we have going on here is actually a prelude to Saturn moving into Aries next month. He's currently in the sign of Pisces, and I think it's been a lot for everyone, actually, and I think it's been a lot for Saturn, because a lot has been dissolved. Boundaries that should have been there are gone, and new ones have yet to be put in place. I mean, that's going to be the job of Aries. And when Saturn moves into Aries next month, I think that a new kind of reality is going to begin to at least be, there's going to be an inception of that, if not, seeing it in all of its totality. But if you are to manifest into a new world that looks very different, because Saturn, the expression of karma on this planet, has been through the washing machine and is coming out a little bit discombobulated himself, saying, okay, like, where do I end now? And Pisces doesn't want things to end. Pisces wants things to go on forever in a continuous flow. It's going to take Saturn a little while to work that out. But if you are going to manifest as a magician in a very, very powerful new imagination, I feel like this is all the last part of what you needed before you moved up. And it's probably quite uncomfortable. It probably doesn't feel very good at this point. Cancer, no, that was High Priestess. Knight of Cups. Well, there's the Star card. Let's put the Star card out there. Six of Cups, Five of Cups, Six of Pentacles. We're talking about stuff from the past coming up. And that could be like your past view of the world, right? Going through the grief of what has been lost and then beginning the process of stabilizing yourself. Particularly those things that are happening on a deep subconscious level, so that where you can orient yourself to what it is that you're getting ready to fight for is this much higher vibration of something, or much higher expression of something. Like I said over here, it's like the universe is saying, no, like knocking on your head, Cancer, and saying, no, you need to think even bigger than this. And so I'm going to push your consciousness up to the next level so that you can actually grapple with these themes. You can actually imagine these things in a way that you could not before. But first, there's a process. So when I say that you need to be kind to yourself for the rest of this month, Cancer, I'm very, very serious about that. There's nothing wrong with you. But where you are is going to take a bit of adjusting to before you can truly say you are beginning to be comfortable with it. But you will become comfortable with it. And these energies here, much like when you get you're going to get an earthquake, and each each point that the earthquake goes up on the scale is actually going up by a factor of 10. That's what I'm feeling here for you. Nurture yourself first. And in fact, I would say most other things be damned till the end of the month. In May, we can take a look at the landscape and see how it lies, because I think it's going to feel very different, but it should at least be becoming a little bit more familiar. And what is uncomfortable right now will feel considerably less so by then. Let's have a look at this. Perfection. I don't even know what to say about that, Cancer. I mean, look at it. You're being pushed up, right? Your discernment's increasing, your intuition's increasing, you yourself are moving closer and closer to a perfected state, which is to say the perfected state of Cancer, healed and operative and efficient and powerful here on this plane. This is stunning. Oh, I love this. Right, I'm going to go and do the extended now. You're very welcome to join me if you would like to do so. Please don't feel obliged to if you don't want to. I understand that there's only 1/3 of the month left. But I do want to put extra messages up for those who feel like they may benefit from them. And if this reading has resonated with you, I could see why that would be the case. So you're very welcome to join me if you would like to do that. Links are in the description box below. One will take you to Circle, that is a monthly subscription. The other one is a one-off, just buy the video. That's over on Self-Height. I'll leave it in your hands and trust that whether you feel like you need the message or whether you don't feel like the message, that choice in that moment is right for you. So know that I love you all very, very much. And I'll see you soon.